and welcome to the Mark LaJoy program. Back on again, and just having a good time, just talking about things. But I wanted to bring on a special guest. He isn't really special, but he's special to me. But Dave Nahley. Dave, welcome to the Mark LaJoy program.
How you doing, man?
Good,
to see y'all.
Yeah, I worked last night, so I'm a little bit frazzled.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. So
Caffeine will be kicking in soon.
well, that's what we got this for. That's the reason we got it. So Dave is my marketing agent for Double M Marketing, right?
Yep, local marketing ad agency.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you've been in this business for quite a while, haven't you?
Had the ad agency about 12 years. Before that, I worked in radio and television, kind of a little bit of a long career. Radio and TV is not quite as, it's a little different nowadays. So we try to do the digital and then the social and podcasting and all this. So we try to accommodate medium and small businesses in our area.
Yeah. So, and that's an awesome thing. I think you've done a wonderful job when it comes to, marketing. You've got a few candidates elected. Not me yet, but we're still working on that.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, we try to stay busy over here.
Yeah, well, you have to. It's your business. I mean, it's something that you have to do. And
yeah, man.
So we're just looking at a lot of different things. Dave and I have collaborated together when it comes to working out a marketing strategy when it comes to this podcast. So it seems like the podcasting realm now is very popular. I mean, it's
very much so.
I think it's even more popular than radio now, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Everybody I know, a lot of folks, they listen to it in their cars. They watch it at home on YouTube. I mean, it's just everywhere these days. It's a big source for information and entertainment.
Well, it's such an easy setup to really do until we work out the bugs, electronically. I mean, that's just kind of part of the business when you're talking about electronics and stuff. Mm-hmm. I know you and I, you were in radio and TV a lot longer than I was. I was just in radio
for a minute.
Yeah, for a minute or two.
I grew up watching my dad work at Channel 3, RBL.
I remember your dad.
He did the news on the Roselle Show every morning
for
about 28 years.
I know that.
So he worked in sales and eventually ran the place. I think the Woodruffs were the original owner, and just a great experience over at Channel 3.
Yeah.
When I first got in the business, I'm like, I'm not going to work with Dad, so I started in radio. I spent a lot of years over with Jimbo over at Rock 103, 10, 12 years back when Rock 103 was, it's a very good station now, but back then it was just ridiculous how popular John Boy and Billy and Rock 103, the rock station, was.
You know what I really liked when I first got here into Columbus, which I thought was really cool, was do you remember the program that they had? Was it AM that I was on, where they had the talk program in the morning? Was that AM or FM?
That was AM 540.
That was AM 540.
That was
that's
Scott.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was awesome because
J. Ed Wilson and Scott. I can't remember his last name, but News Talk.
Yeah, and that was awesome because they would go over the news activity, talk about, and they would talk about a few little things they would pick out of that. But what's really important is people got to get on and talk about it. They got to call in, doing the call-ins.
Yes. Yeah.
And voicing their opinions. I mean, we don't have that anymore.
Even on television, remember Calvin?
Yeah.
His show on every morning on NBC 38, 6 to 7 a.m. Very popular show, a lot of call-ins. Dad, now Fleming, sat in on that show. My dentist, Dr. Windsor, over in Phoenix City, he would do gospel on that show on Wednesdays. Just a lot of news talk, has morphed over to what we're doing right here today. It's just different, but it's still a good form of information.
Yeah.
I
think so too. I think it's something that I think we really need to kind of bring back because people need to have a medium to voice their opinions. And I think in this political realm that we've seen here just in this past election, well, it's not quite passed yet, but it will be as of tomorrow.
After tomorrow, yes.
It is that people really never got to voice their opinions about what they, we tried to provide some of that. We haven't gone live yet, but we will, going from pre-recorded to a live broadcast, and we did show up on Facebook, and a lot of people did ask questions. But I think it's important that that's the next step that we come into and let the public call in, because they're misinformed. They don't understand about public policy and the things like that. Yeah. And I think it's important that we have that back and forth communication. Yeah. Right now, all you got is a bunch of keyboard warriors that get out there and trolls and try to troll you, and say, well, why are you doing this now? And it was like, come on, man.
I agree. Somebody at the airport the other day wanted to show the big bird flying out, fully stocked and sold out, and the only comments were, "Oh wow, your video looks kind of rough." And I'm like, "Wow, this is a tough room. I'm glad we got this service in Columbus now."
Yeah.
All they wanted to do was talk about the quality of the video, which I thought was kind of crazy.
And look, you and I both know, being in the radio and TV field, that you've got to, when you got the mechanics of these machines that I call them now, that you have to work out timing. You've got to work out how the board works. How do we reach the public, and all that kind of stuff is important. Yes. But then you got your keyboard warriors going, well, I didn't hear that, and all this. It's like, okay, I get it. I understand. And we do. Yeah. And it's not like we're not trying to make improvements and trying to do these things, because we are. We want to put out a good product, and we work out the quality control of it. But I tell you what's really important about podcast is now there's other folks doing it.
Yes, I have noticed that myself. There's a lot more local here in this area.
I just found out John Anker's doing one. Randy Robertson's doing one. Of course, we're going to outshine that market, so we ain't worried about it, because Dave's the man, and Dave has been very successful when it comes to media marketing. And I think especially
saying that.
The commercials that you did for me were, I can't argue. They were the best.
Thanks, man.
So
we have a diverse portfolio of clients, everything from car dealers to, Jerry's Pest Control, Money Miser, my great friend Robbie Witten.
How is Robbie doing anyway?
Robbie's doing better.
Okay,
He's doing a lot better. He should be home in maybe next week.
Great guy.
Yeah, a little scary.
Yeah, and this thing with strokes is a very scary thing, because both my brothers, they both died from stroke. A year apart. That's the crazy thing. Yeah. They were great guys. They were, they're much older than I was, because my dad died when I was, he was 57. I was about 16 years old at the time that he had died. And my brothers were my idols. I looked up to them.
Yeah.
They took care of me. Gary, my second brother, and he took me out fishing and did all the things that Dad wasn't able to do, and that was important to me. So it was a big loss. I think any family member that you lose in your family is a big loss, but especially from my standpoint. But Robbie I met him probably about 6 months ago. I went over there to his office at Money Miser.
Great guy.
Awesome guy. I mean, he talked as long as we wanted to talk with him. He was, and he would do business at the same time. That was the crazy part,
really down to earth and somebody you can trust in business. He really is.
Yeah.
And you talk about loss. Our friend Brian Waters left us in January, and I miss him. I had two older brothers growing up. Kind of always looked up to them as well.
Yeah.
So good friends are, you can probably count on one hand these days. But Robbie's one of the good guys for sure.
And Brian was awesome. He put out helped me put out that commercial that I had put out with the cowboy cap and all that. Yeah. It was a silent commercial, but they got a lot of awards over that.
Brian, very creative.
Yeah.
Very creative guy. More from on-air radio over to digital marketing and marketing television. Just a great friend and asset to the business community.
Yeah. Yeah, actually,
we all miss him. He was a great guy.
Yeah, I'll miss him, and I know it was a close personal friend of yours. So but we got to move on. Life moves on. It does.
I don't know if you heard this, but did you know the Knicks won over the weekend?
Yeah, I heard about that.
I heard a little bit about that.
The city started to burn. They burned the city down. They burned police. Look, I get it. You won a game in 50 years or something like that. But why burn the city down for a win?
Right. Why?
They burned it down when they didn't win, and then they burned it down when they did win.
It makes no sense to
It makes
me.
no sense to
Yeah.
me. Why the hell,
Yeah.
I mean, you should be happy, celebrating, People were climbing poles, light poles, screwing up
Yeah.
the lights and burning police cars. And I'm just like, come
Craziness,
on, man.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Now,
mean,
all I was doing over the weekend was watching West Virginia baseball and
Yeah.
Troy and
Yeah.
Bama. A lot of good college baseball this past weekend.
No, Troy's my alma mater.
No kidding. Troy's still in it.
Yeah, are
West
they?
Virginia's still in it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Alabama, I think, plays tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope Troy does
Yeah.
well. And
I got a double
Yeah.
degree through Troy, so that's my alma mater.
yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Great school. Everybody in Alabama loves Troy.
You know what? I was very surprised when I came here in 1988 and became a student of Troy because my sergeant major told me, for promotion wise, that those were one of the things that we needed was college, to go on, to the next level, marketing, ourselves, to the Army and outside world when you get out. And they said
Yes.
college was super important. So, I didn't have any time when I graduated from high school. Again, I was working radio. I did
Yeah.
a little radio on Sunday programs and stuff like that. That was, and my idea was to go into media and never got to go there. I mean,
Yeah.
I went off in a different direction.
Yeah. When
so.
did you enlist? How old were you when you enlisted?
I was almost 19. I was
Okay.
almost 19 when I
Yeah.
enlisted. Because see, I was a little older in my graduating class.
Mhm.
Technically, I could have graduated with the class before that because I had enough credits. But I had all my friends in
Right.
in that class in that year, 1979.
Yeah.
And so I played football with them, and and all of my friends were there. So that's where I identified with them in that class. And shortly thereafter that, I went into the military and tried to get in anything like media, TV through the
Right.
military, but wasn't available. It just wasn't
Right,
available at
right.
the time.
Yeah.
So then the recruiters come back and told me, they said, well, we got this special thing called the infantry. And I'm like, what the hell is the infantry?
Yeah.
And so, I bid on it. I said, okay, well, tell me about it. They said, well, you'll get trained out there to shoot and run and jump, and you'll get to jump out of airplanes.
Right,
And
right.
I was like, man, that is awesome.
Sounds awesome. Yeah.
Boy, was
Exciting.
I stupid. Boy, they freaking hooked me, man. They hooked me
Yeah.
big time when it came to that. So that's where I ended up. I was in,
Thank you for all that.
yeah, it does.
Thank you for everything you did for our country.
Yeah, I don't regret being a public servant, and I've
Yeah.
always served in that capacity, which was being a public servant. I think it was super important, that
Yes.
that's why I went into politics to extend that level.
Mhm.
I think, and I still believe that way. I serve the public. I want to serve the public. I always have. I have an eye for it.
And you continue now with
Yeah.
this podcast.
Yeah, and
You've had great guests on here since you started.
and we've had some good.
Yeah.
I think we had up to 146,000 or something views and stuff. At
crazy.
one point we had.
It was pretty large.
It was pretty
Congrats.
large,
Yeah.
and it's only growing, and we're going to grow from there. The market's going to grow. This program's going to grow. Dave's going to be a huge part of this. Moving forward, that's my plan, and so
Thanks, man.
I just want to see good things. So, Dave, let's talk a little bit about the, if we can, this marketing plan that you have for the podcast. Since you're the
Well,
one
we're
that kind
definitely
of
looking for sponsors for the podcast. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the whole thing. Of course, you want to get monetized with the views, but
Right.
we are asking local business to be a part of this. So we'll run a commercial during the podcast. We'll mention your business. We'll even have you on to talk about your business,
Yeah.
if you like. So there's different ways you can get your name out there with the Mark LaJoy Show.
Yeah.
And so this is a combination of commercial, mentions,
Yeah.
even an in-studio visit,
Right.
all of the above. And it's very cost effective. It's not expensive at all.
Yeah, it's not expensive, but you
Yeah.
reach a lot of folks. I
You
mean,
do.
this is the crazy part. So if you're thinking about marketing, getting your business out there and going to the next level, this is where you've
Yes,
got
sir.
to go with it.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
the way you guys, Sarah and Julia,
Yeah.
you sent out the snippets and
Yeah.
and the clips, it really gets a lot of good traction.
Yeah, we use
Yeah.
Riverside, so those snippets really helped a lot. The thing that I really like about Riverside is, and I'm sure the other program that's out there does the same thing, but it gives you this simulcast on there, the wording. So those are the captions.
Yeah.
So those people who are hearing impaired, that's a really important thing that they'll be able to participate and look at the program.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was one of the things I was going to do as mayor here in Columbus is, You don't see that at city council meetings. We should have a person with sign language up there.
Agreed.
Yes.
Standing on,
Yeah.
and no, look, you candidates stole a whole bunch of my ideas. Why don't you steal this idea?
Dude, they really did.
They did. They did. As a matter of fact, family member of mine contacted my wife and said, man, they stole all your ideas. I said,
But yet they tell you that you don't really know what you're doing.
yeah, they don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
But I think it's important, if you want to pay attention to anything, get a person up there with sign language
Yeah.
that can do the sign
Absolutely.
for people.
Great
Yes.
idea.
And we're not including that part of our community,
I
you know.
agree.
So
Yeah.
but that's great, David. I think this is where we need to go with the marketing part of that. You know,
Sure. Just hit us up, doubleandmarketing.com. We're all over the
Yeah.
socials, all over, got God's website. So,
it is.
You know.
And it's really important that, we try to get the message out there for folks, and the advertisement is really great. And we'll do that. We'll do that for
me
you.
in the community. I'm at all the chamber functions and whatnot.
Yeah.
Just
You-
out here, always trying to get in the public eye.
Yeah.
Trying to make a difference.
Do you go to
For
those?
our clients, and I'm being facetious.
Yeah.
But I don't go as much as I should.
Yeah.
They're great organizations. I went to the ball game Friday night. The AA Braves, also known as the Clingstones. I didn't know if you knew this, but it was Friday night. It was a chamber thing. A chamber event, had like 2 or 3 chambers there. It was a great event. I had a blast.
Some guy,
We won, and the Clingstones won.
yeah. Somebody said something the other day on Facebook. I really, excuse my cough. I had to laugh about it. And he goes, something about, I think it was our new city manager, how he somehow had a large part of getting the Braves, Clingstones, whatever the heck they were calling themselves.
Right.
And the guy even said, hell, they wouldn't even let us name our own team and stuff like that. And he goes, it was named after a peach out of California.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
But I had to look up what a clingstone was because
Yes.
I didn't know initially what that was.
Yeah. Definitely a form of a peach. So yeah, not. I'm sure they're grown here in Georgia somewhere.
Yeah.
But not really, a big part of the Columbus peach community.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's a great ball team. We love the Braves.
That's fine.
But you're right. The name was a little different.
Yeah, it was a lot different
we
from.
played the Pensacola Wahoos. The Savannah Bananas. That's kind of a cool name.
I like that.
Those guys are
cool names from
Those
minor
guys
league
are cool.
baseball.
Those
They
guys are cool.
They
They
are.
put on a
Yeah.
show for you.
Yeah, they sell out stadiums.
Yeah. They come out in these crazy ass uniforms and then they do backflips and they I
got
mean
a
it,
pitcher on stilts.
I know.
They did Truist Park a couple of weeks ago, and Chipper Jones threw out the first pitch, and it counted.
Oh, did he?
The first pitch. Yeah,
No
which
kidding.
Makes no sense to me, but it's all good entertainment. It's great family entertainment.
Yeah, Chipper's not doing much these days, is he? I mean, since he retired.
Not doing much.
I remember when he came out of the minors, for the Braves and stuff and playing. I mean, he was a sensation for the first year that he came out of the
He
minors.
was awesome, dude. Yeah.
He was a hell of a pitcher. And, the Braves had some good teams, but
All in the early mid '90s, they did absolutely.
well, remember when they stacked the deck with that World Series team? Well, that
Yes.
was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who owned him at the
95.
time?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's not with us anymore. So
No, he's gone too.
he's moved
Yeah, he
along.
was a good guy.
Yeah. These guys, they were larger than life, they came out
Mm-hmm.
and put these dream teams, and when I say dream teams together, they did it. I know Detroit did the same thing with the Red Wings. They brought out several good teams that they put out there. They paid all the Russians and everybody else that was, part of the team.
Right.
So it's great. I think that we'll talk about sports. I think this program is going to
Absolutely.
talk about everything in politics. It's going to talk about sports. It's going to talk about everything, and especially military matters. And military matters is something that I'm very sensitive about with wounded veterans and things of that nature.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to be a very active part of that. I think it's important that we get involved in that because wounded veterans is something that, I'm very, very sensitive of and want to support that 100%. I really
My friend
do.
Ray Muncie, they did Wake for Warriors this past weekend on Lake
Yeah.
Harding on the
Yeah.
Alabama side. Really good event and very helpful. Ray Muncie.
Yeah.
It's like their 8th or 10th year
Yeah.
of doing that.
And
It
that's
was a lot of fun.
I hope that's what we can do. I want to get out. I would love to do remotes So if we'll figure out the remote situation. We get out there and actually do on-site. We'll do a podcast on-site, whatever function that you've got out there, especially the military-related thing.
Yeah.
I know I was a director of training and operations and down in Blakely of a military business that we had down there. And what we did is the property we had set up, we actually had deer hunting areas that we had set up out there. And you could actually, we had these pedestals and they were blinds that you could roll the wheelchairs up into, which was really cool. And you give them the rifle, and some of them could hold a rifle. Some we had these wheelchairs that had like tractor wheels on them, which was really cool because they could go up, and they settle in, first light and they're there, and we knew that the deer were passing through those areas.
Sure.
And that was awesome. It got them to back out in the environment to do their thing. And so we were a big part of that. And then
anything we can do to help veterans.
Absolutely.
In our area. Now, are you what they call a black hat back in the day?
I didn't do the black hat thing, but I did do.
You did train jump school.
I trained in our own jump schools.
Yes,
is what we were at.
Okay,
So, the special operations side of it, we don't do traditional jump school like Airborne does here.
Right.
We run our own courses.
Okay.
Yeah, we run our own courses there, and because we have qualified people to do that training. I do belong to a parachuting organization down in DeLand, Florida, and a lot of those guys are guys that I had served with. One of them, as the president of the company, is my former commander when I deployed to Afghanistan.
Yes, sir.
And he now is retired. He retired out as a lieutenant colonel, I believe.
Yeah.
And now he's part of that whole operation down there. He's been the president of, and the great part of it is that we can actually train you. If you've never jumped out, a civilian has never jumped out of a military aircraft, we can actually train you in that course down there. And as soon as you're done with it, you get to jump out of there.
You see it. Like if you're in Fort Mitchell, you see the guys training. How many jumps have you personally?
Man, I don't know.
A lot.
Hundreds.
A lot.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
And all different kinds of aircraft, everything from CH-47 Chinooks to C-141s, which they don't even fly those anymore, those aircraft.
Okay.
To C-17, which is a huge aircraft, to C-5A, which is even a huger aircraft.
Wow.
To C-130s, helicopters, Black Hawks, CH-47s, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And we jumped out of all of those types of things because... And
you train for every scenario.
Well, you have to, but you have to train for the different types of aircraft. Because you don't ever know in a special operations side of it, you don't know what host country that you're going in and what you're doing, what type of aircraft that they have. So you got to be proficient in all of those mediums.
So when they train here at Fort Benning, is it
no
different aircraft?
No,
is it the big C-130?
No, they use C-130s and they use C-17s.
C-17.
Yeah, C-17 is a huge aircraft. And before they did some certain adaptations to the aircraft, before they put what they call an air dam on the door, what that does is it creates a positive positive flow, but it also blocked the wind out so you get sucked out.
Right.
I mean, it literally, when you get sucked out of that aircraft, it feels like you're behind a vehicle going 80 miles an hour, and you come to a dead stop in the air.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And a lot of people wonder why we have neck and back problems. Well, that's the reason, because your spine snaps like that. Just like the parachute does, your spine snaps, and it creates all that undue wear on our back. A lot of people don't know, that I'm disabled, for that purpose. But, if I had to do it all over again, would I jump out of another aircraft? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just the exhilaration at 1,500 feet of coming out of that aircraft, And then when you get in the air and you grab just depends on what type of parachute that you have. But some of the parachutes have steerable, capabilities.
Yes, I see that. Like when they're doing the events and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
The toggles will come out of these little pouches on the risers. They'll drop down. And that allows you to turn left or turn right.
Right.
Cool. And it's really cool. The new parachutes they have but are crazy. To me, they look like an upside down plastic garbage bag. They got 4 corners on them,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
It's
just
not rounded. It's
no,
like
it's not
square.
round. Yeah, it's
okay. Okay.
that's supposed to allow them to come down to earth a lot gentler.
Okay.
But it's an art. You've got to learn how to steer those parachutes. I remember the old round chutes we had. We would grab the front riser if we wanted to go left and pull it into our chest.
That's how you steer.
That's how you steered because it would have
Pulling
did.
one of the lines.
Yeah, it would collapse the parachute to a point where it allowed more turn into it. So you had minimal amount of maneuverability, but on these new, like the Charlie model, the old Charlie model, and the SF-13s, which are the new model that Special Forces uses, are highly steerable, very highly steerable. And they were originally made for the smoke jumpers, U.S. Forest Service.
Right.
Those guys can land in a 12 by 12 area, and with equipment. I mean, they'll have shovels and chainsaws, and it's crazy.
I'm glad they can do that.
We actually got to jump with those folks in Montana, and we were up training up in Montana at a place called Fort Harrison, which is, if you know anything about Special Forces, is where the Canadians and U.S. train together.
Okay.
They train together for the big raid into Germany, right? And some of those guys, they're probably all passed away now, but some of those guys were still alive at the time.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was real important that they, they got a museum up there and they told us all about her history. So,
with the 250 coming up on July 4th, do you think Fort Benning will have a big? When I was a kid growing up, it was always big fireworks.
yeah,
Dad be like, "We're going to Fort Benning for the fireworks on the 4th."
I think they will. Oh, there's no doubt for the 250. Yeah, it's going to happen. What I really liked about Benning, I think a few years back, I don't know if it's going to, I hope it's going to be as big as it had been in the past. But one of those groups they had playing were Nickelback. Oh, God.
Wow.
Popular band.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I haven't heard them in years.
Oh, that was awesome.
Absolutely.
Man, those speakers were 12, 14 foot tall, and they were all over the place. And I couldn't hear, but I said, I don't care. I love the music.
Yeah.
I'm going, what? What'd you say? I can't hear you. But it was great. That the lead singer of Nickelback just recently died, just a few months ago.
Wow.
Hate that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Had
that.
no idea.
Yep, he did. He was going through, my understanding, some kind of lengthy illness. I don't know exactly what that was, but
But I do remember the events at Fort Benning, the concerts. I remember driving on the base, and
yeah.
and
they had they had some really good stuff going on. The Rangers would, do
show.
they would jump, and the Silver Wings would jump, and then the Rangers would do extraction operations, which are helicopter would, they'd rappel out of it like we've been trained to do, and go to the ground, and the helicopter would make a big turn, come back in, and they would do an extraction where they're all layered below this pull cable,
Right.
and they're hooked in, and they just come up and pull them like that.
That's crazy, man.
It is crazy, and they'll fly all around the thing and stuff like that. I've done that before, and it's just
That's got to be exhilarating.
it's exhilarating. I've missed that. I really do. I miss those days of the military stuff and the camaraderie ship.
We should check with MWR and see what's going on
Yeah.
on the 4th of July.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know the base security is a concern right now, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I know Lake Harding, where I live up the road a piece, I know they're really going out on their fireworks that 4th of July night.
Yeah.
Big deal because it's the 250th.
Yeah.
I was talking to Robbie at Money Miser. He's like, it's going to be a really big show this time around. So there's got to be a lot going on around the valley.
Right.
Fort Benning, Lake Harding, probably Callaway Gardens. I need to get a rundown. I need to Google that.
Yeah.
Because my kids would say, let me Google that. So we'll find out what's going on. 4th of July this year is going to be a big deal. 250th.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Have you paid attention to what's going on at the White House? They had a UFC fighting
I watched a little of that
championships
last
at the
night.
White House.
Dude, I was watching West Virginia baseball, and they lost to North Carolina. But the fight thing last night was pretty crazy. Yeah.
I mean, that's the crazy stuff, man.
yeah.
Where have we ever had a president do something like that? I mean, we got a UFC fighting championships on the back of the White House lawn. I was like, that's crazy, man. It's
That was
absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But it's different.
Definitely one off.
Yeah, it definitely is one off. It's something that I really enjoyed. I got a little bit into the UFC thing, which was pretty cool. But
It's really popular.
Yeah, it is popular. Well, that's how one of our famous podcasters out there, how he got started was in UFC.
Yes.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
that's how it started,
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dave,
Man, I appreciate you letting me sit in with you.
know,
guys.
it's a
This was
pleasure.
fun. Yeah,
It definitely was a pleasure to have you on board today and talk
Thanks,
about
Mark. Yeah.
about what Double M does for us and what we're going to do in the future. And just remember that,
Yeah.
I think we're still working on some of the old guys. What are we going to call this?
I don't know. We got to figure that out.
We got to come up with
old men.
4 or 5 grumpy old men, on there and just talking shit. That's
Yeah,
fun.
Exactly. Yeah. Just complaining about shit. That's what we do.
That's
now.
what old people
Just
do
ask
now.
anybody that knows me. They'll tell you all I do is complain.
Yeah.
I've never heard you complain.
We'll say, my back hurts today, but you know what? I want to tell you about this fishing tournament I went to and stuff
Right, yeah.
So
Or as I like to tell people, I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
yeah. Well, neither am I.
But the show's going to be great.
Yeah.
We'll be revealing that, and that'll be coming out very soon.
That's awesome.
Have some good local folks that you know along with us, and it's gonna be a good deal.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you coming on today.
All right, buddy.
All right.
y'all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So that was Dave Nahley, Double M Marketing. Great guy. Our producer of media. He does a great job. And it was nice to have him on today. You can talk a little bit about things that we got coming up in the future. So what do we want to talk about today, Delia?
Well, we have we actually have voting for the runoff
Oh.
coming up tomorrow, right?
Yeah. I posted something. A lot of people. This is going to be the last time that I'm going to mention anything about this mayoral campaign, and I know a lot of you people go like I posted something on there, which was on my Facebook. They talked about all the things that were I call negativism or whatever. I call it truce, but apparently most of the keyboard warriors out there or trolls want to call it something else.
Like mudslinging.
Yeah, they want to call it mudslinging. So just let me leave this thought with you here. Nothing that we put out there was not factual. Okay. That's one thing I want you to understand. And the other thing I want you to understand is look, even the Democrats say, well, he's a Republican, I was like, yeah, so what? But I'm going to tell you what, I'm a Republican last and I'm a conservative first.
Yeah.
And I'm a war hawk when it comes to budgets and spending money and in safety and security for our public. I'm a Republican last, but I'm a conservative. And I don't want to spend your money for useless purposes and those types of things. And that should be important to y'all. But what really kind of irked me was the fact that the support that I did not get from my party.
Yeah.
That it really did. I want everybody to know that hurt my heart. And then you've got these certain factions behind certain campaigns that are doing things purposely to try to draw me out. I don't like that. I came here in 1988. And when I came here straight from Korea. And what was really important is that I got latched onto by the Muskogee County Republican Party at the time. And I listened to the briefings and I believed in the conservative values.
Yeah.
And I still do. And I believe in the conservative values. I'm not selling my soul or I'm not selling anything out. But the bottom line is, why was Joanne Kogel allowed to publish the negative things that she published just came out, and that is a positive mudslinging versus what I was putting out was factual?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. Why is it? Because we're about to maybe get somebody that we don't want? Is that why now it's acceptable?
Well, I think it has something to do with the fact that they're really at a place where you have two. This is how people view them. This is not what I am saying about them, but you kind of have like these two giants that are facing off. And so, when you have each of the candidates coming out and saying what each of the other one can't do, that's for them specifically to say, hey, I can do it. Now, I think I think it's because if I'm just honest, I think a lot of people just didn't like you. They didn't want to like you. Because they're expecting someone who can get in there and schmooze and be sweet and, look good and everything. They don't act aggressive. They're not direct in what they have to say. And a lot of people, they like to be won over. So at the end of the day, I don't think that it's that they have a problem with the mudslinging. I think it's that they had a problem with you sharing something. You know what I'm saying? And it's just because the people, in my opinion, are blind, or at least have been. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you now, I don't schmooze up to nobody. Never have and never will. And you know that history about me. We have worked together for many years already in the past, and I'm not a schmoozer, okay? I'm not the kind of guy that you can walk up to and, we're going to identify with each other because of a certain, I don't know, political thing or financial issue or whatever. But what I do believe in, and what you have, and I truly believe this in my heart, is that I like the public to know what the truth is. I like to put it out there in front of them. And I understand it's not popular. It doesn't feel good. You don't want to hear it. But I don't believe in stroking people. I just don't.
No.
Because I don't want to be stroked.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what makes us kind of, our people direct like us, one of a kind, because we don't sugarcoat the truth. And honestly, what I learned is if I'm telling the truth, and lots of people have said that I am truthful to a fault. But the way that I see it is, if I am telling you the truth, you have the ability to make a conscious and intelligent and informed decision based off of what I've given you. And at the end of the day, if you don't want what I have, that's on you, and I can go on my merry way. But you can't say that you weren't told.
Yeah, exactly. I believe in the same things, but and I don't want you to think that I'm the type of person that excuse me, that I hate everybody, because I don't. I think it's important that people understand that you have to know where your government's coming from. And we're probably about to go into a new political realm that we don't want to go into. I mean, and here's the deal. If Columbus has to fail completely, then maybe that's where we need to start from the bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe, we have been misled by city council members. We have been misled by soon to be a former mayor. We've been misled by government agencies within the Columbus Consolidated Government. And if you're comfortable with that, then by all means, vote your conscience.
Yeah.
But just remember, at the end of the day, what you're settling for and what you're going to settle for and what you're going to get.
Yeah.
There's no job. A lot of people had said, well, you are not qualified to do this. You're not. I'm qualified to do any damn job that I want to do. If I wanted to run for president, I would run for it. You have to understand, folks, it's leadership.
Yeah. Well, if you weren't qualified for it, then in my opinion, you wouldn't run anyway, because
I wouldn't.
That's heavy weight. You know, if you didn't think that you could get in there and do that, then it would be unwise for you to do that.
Yeah.
So for other people as onlookers to say that you're not qualified, again, I think that it's just a matter of they don't want to see. They just don't want to see. They don't care. And that's one thing that I've realized about a lot of people in Columbus is, I keep hearing this rhetoric and seeing this about how, well, he'll be the first black mayor, and, vote party. And, it's just very, very contained. It's very almost like siloed. And so people just don't want to wake up. They don't want to choose something new. And I think about how if you make the same choices, you're going to get the same responses, and so I think you're absolutely right. I think that Columbus is going to have to recognize the intense failure and hard knocks. Sometimes people have to learn by hard knocks.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it takes. Maybe that this is something that has to happen. Maybe a complete failure of our government services and everything, because we're operating right now. Our government service budget is operating on less than 30 days,
In
roughly
reserves?
in reserves,
Wow.
and that's not supposed to be.
Mm.
You know, we're supposed to have a good operating budget in there, and it's just been misused and abused. And I'm going to make a quote here, so don't hold me, because somebody will say, "Oh no, you're saying things about sailors." No, they're spending our money like a drunken sailor on Friday night. You know. Now, I don't mean that. I mean that in a good way, not a good way, but a positive way. It just means a drunken sailor, drunken soldier. I don't care what you call it, but they're taking our checkbook and just writing checks.
Yeah.
There was a guy that I don't know, remember what he is. There's a black guy on here was posting. He's been going to the city council meetings.
Is that Corey?
Yeah, that's
Corey Wilson.
Yeah,
I
Corey
think,
Wilson.
yeah.
He put out all of the expenses in there, $9.5 million
Yeah, that was awesome.
on vehicles and crap that we don't need.
So was that vehicles specifically for like the sheriff's office? Was it vehicles as
Oh.
a whole, like for
For
the CPD?
all the sheriff's office, CPD, government services, you name it.
Okay.
These are expenses that were all in there. And I'm saying to myself, how many more new Ford Explorers do we need? I mean, seriously. And the role of the police department is very specific. The role of the sheriff's office, spelled out in state law, is very, very specific. State law and federal law, okay? Constitutionally, a sheriff is responsible for two things. The court, right? And the jail. Nothing of this other garbage. None of the other garbage that goes along with it. And the police department is responsible for upholding state and federal and city laws and city ordinances. But the thing that really irritates me the most is not one of the city council member candidates or current incumbents, when Stoney Mathis stood up there and said, we've got a 40% reduction rate in crime. Folks, that's a lie. It's an absolute lie. I'm telling you. And when he stands up there in front of city council and tells you that crap, that's the way they're putting it out in NIBRS. Listen, NIBRS is the National Incident-Based Reporting System. I work in this every day. I know what it is. You can draw your own conclusions. Now, a lot of people say, well, we haven't had any shootings or any murders. Well, yeah, we've had a lot of shootings.
Yeah, they just don't get reported.
A lot of them probably don't get reported. I don't know if that's purposely or not. But the bottom line is we have a crime problem in Columbus.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that we talked about small, medium, and large corporations coming to Columbus. Don't think that businesses don't do their homework when it comes to the environment that they want to open up in business, right? They want an area that's going to be, I don't think there's 100% an area that you can say is crime forbidden. But there is a lot of it that's crime ridden.
Yeah. Well, it used to be consolidated to like North Highland,
Yeah.
East Highland,
Right.
St. Mary's, Buena Vista, where the north side was untouchable. But, you know, I'm a firm believer that the atmosphere of the people, basically the popular holding or belief system of the people is reflected in whether or not your community is criminal or whether it is safe.
Right.
And you know, I'm a firm believer that it's hard to keep the city crime free. I'm choosing my words wisely, by the way. I think that it's very hard to keep Columbus crime free when you have people who are responsible for preventing crime or enforcing the laws that are breaking the laws themselves. So you can't expect crime to go away if you have people who are criminals, allegedly, or who are refusing to enforce the laws when it comes to those people who have committed crimes.
Yeah. Well, Chief Mathis came here at a time that needed leadership. And you could really have gotten anybody here. It didn't have to be Chief Mathis. It could be anybody. But when you're on the very bottom with the chief that you had, who, again, the department itself lost confidence in him. And I'm talking, this just wasn't all white folks or whatever. This was a combination of black officers, white officers, Spanish officers that lost confidence in his ability to lead the police department. That's why he was terminated. Okay? There's a reason for this stuff.
You're talking about Freddie Blackman.
Yeah, exactly. There was a reason he was terminated, but then he was given a pretty and handsome termination packet. Wish I could have got that. But the bottom line is, anybody, when you're at the very bottom, when your nose is touching the floor with your, you can't go much lower than that. So anybody coming in would have been a praise. So everybody would say, well, he got us a raise, and he let us wear ball caps, he let us grow a beard, he's organized it. Okay, that's great. Any leadership ability, anybody with the leadership ability can do that. The problem is there's a lot of behind the scenes things you don't know.
Yeah.
There were officers that were fired by him because they spoke up against things that he had.
Now you're saying that they've been fired since Stoney has been in office, or this
Yes.
okay.
And one of them I know really well, and I won't mention his case because I don't want to, but everybody knows who he is. And he was a great officer here. I served with him at the time, But apparently he brought the attention some of the issues that were going on in the department. And chief didn't want to hear about it. And then they got into my guess was a discussion. And really, I welcomed those discussions. When I was an interim sergeant major, or where I was a first sergeant, I welcomed uncomfortable discussions.
Yeah.
I welcomed them because I learned from these issues. I learned from all of it. I'm not a smart guy. I'm not a stupid guy. I'm just a guy with a lot of common sense.
Yeah. Well, I think about how ever since we got Stoney, that I will say that he is the least controversial in the public eye's perspective.
Okay.
Like there hasn't been a whole lot come out like negatively. There's not been like scandals. There's not been. So if there is obviously anything going on with Stoney, the media has done a really good job of keeping it hush.
Well, of course. And then the city council members are going to protect all of that. They're protecting it. There's a reason why they're protecting it, right?
Well, they didn't protect Freddie.
No,
when
they
all that
didn't.
was coming out.
No, I granted, and I said this, and I'm getting a little bit off subject, but I'll say this about the new city manager position. If he doesn't perform the way they want him to,
They'll fire him too.
will he? Will they? Then this is not a positive note for Mr. Hughley, because he was terminated for very good reasons. But on the same token, are you going to do the same thing for this Tyson Begley if he doesn't do what they want him to do?
Well, from what I saw, Simi was the only counselor that actually said that she didn't want Tyson. So, maybe that would change. But I do know that Simi has come in with a lot of energy. She's come in at, with expectations to follow in Pop's lead, it's like his example. So, at the end of the day, the people need to understand that these servants work for them. And if they are not working for them, then they have the ability to go to their counselors and say, okay, listen, we're not getting the accountability. We still want to know what's going on with the finances. We haven't forgotten about that. We, are seeing that he is not taking care of, let's just say that there's another instance in one of the departments, he's not giving us the oversight. Or, even when it comes to your elected officials, if they're not working for you, the way that I see it is, if I'm a business owner and I've got an employee that's stealing from me or sleeping on the clock or not doing things the way that I've told them to do, they need to be fired. I'm not going to give them another 3 years to continue doing that. And so a lot of people need to start educating themselves on the recall process, which I have seen that has been mentioned. I think don't quote me on this. I think it might have been Corey. If it's somebody else, then I apologize. But I'm pretty sure I saw something about him talking about recalls. But we definitely need to, no matter who our government officials are, we need to be paying attention and we need to hold them accountable.
Right. And the way you hold them accountable is you see these little campaign cards that were put out there. Those are your campaign initiatives. That's what you promised your constituents you were going to do. Okay. So I think as a public service from us, is that we pull these campaign cards out, depending on who gets elected, and we say, wait a minute, you said this, this, and this, and you haven't done it yet. That, in my opinion, is a report card. And I said that during the campaign, is that I would publish a 60-day report card, at least in the first 100 days, and then thereafter for major things that I told you I was going to do. That's a check to block. But I suspect you're not going to hold them accountable over there for that. And we're right back to where we started again, an unsuccessful city council, an unsuccessful mayoralship, an unsuccessful city manager position. Because if you don't hold them accountable, we're never going to grow. We're never going to get ourselves out of this doldrum that we're in right now. And the thing is, I get it, big family members. You want to get behind a candidate, plug all that money in there because you want to pick up a phone for a special favor. I'm not a special favor guy. I never have been.
Right.
But I will tell you this. I will treat, in an elected official capacity, I will treat everybody equally fair. And I think that's all you can ask for people. I'm not going to stroke your hair and stroke your back and tell you, oh, I love you, man. You're such a good, I think you're all great people. But I'm not going to make you promises that I can't keep. Not going to do it.
Yeah. So you talking about, representing all of the people, that's the concern that I have seen, but I have also seen other people talk about is they, I think about how from an outsider's perspective, I'm white. And I say that because Isaiah is Black. And he promotes the Black community, which is not bad. It's not bad to promote your
Nobody
own
said
community.
it's bad.
But what I see is that Isaiah is biased towards the Black community, and so my question is
interesting.
The white community, and I hate separating that.
But that's how they're separating it.
Yeah, but that's how they're doing it. And so it's like if you want everyone in there to be all Black, when everybody in Columbus is not Black, you have Hispanics, you have white people, Black people, you have, the LGBT community, you have all of these different diversities of people. And so to just say that, hey, we want these Black people here. We've got all of the Divine Nine guys and the sororities that go along with all of those. And it just doesn't seem like that all of the people will be represented under Isaiah.
No, they won't. He talked about healing the division and the chaos. I had to laugh when I heard that. Not only was I laughing outwardly, I was laughing inwardly because you can't be the person who created the chaos and solve the problem. That's like telling the fox to watch the hen house.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. And then you put city council members up in mayoral positions because they've been there and like, well, they have the experience. Well, yeah, but isn't it a good experience? They let this guy sit around and languish in that position for how many years before they finally got grew a backbone?
Didn't they say it was city manager for 20-something years?
Yeah. But I mean, even Charmaine Crabb, who recommended the letter, how many years did she sit out there and finally grew a backbone? And I guess you could argue, well, Joanne was there for 2 years, but she was there for 2 years listening to this. Yeah. And sat on and this is the problem. You sat on your hands and did nothing. That's my point. And a lot of people go, well, you only had 1,800 votes, so that's why you're not recommending that. This has got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing. You're foolish. You're foolish. And stop bringing those things up because it not only is it irritating, it's not true. Yeah. Look, whatever happens tomorrow, positive or negative, you deserve what you get. Because leadership, there are natural leaders in this world. Some people grow up naturally to be leaders. Some people learn how to be leaders. And some people go in leadership positions that never learn what the hell a leadership terminology actually is. They wouldn't know it if it hit them in the back of the head or in the back square in the back of their pants. I mean, it's simple. Leadership, it can be learned if you're willing to accept that you've done things that were not true to leadership traits and abilities. But you have to, in order to serve in any position, whether it's in government, whether it's in federal, state, local government, in an elected position, you have to have the leadership skills and abilities to do the job. And it doesn't matter what color you are. I don't care. You know, they're making this big deal, like Teresa Elamine. They took the mic away from me and I can't speak and all that stuff. Did you see that video the other day? And
I did, and I have mixed feelings about
well,
it.
I got mixed feelings, but again, I don't care if you get on up there, but stop all this. She's a main proponent of division right now. When she first come on in the network here, okay, when she first got on board, you know, she actually invited me to a couple campaign things when I was running for sheriff. But she has gotten to the extreme radical left. And she set out openly, we want all black candidates to be replaced in city council. Why? Well, I mean, I'm not opposed to a black candidate, but the terminology, the first sheriff, the first mayor, the first whatever, why does it have to be a first? Why can't it be a person who wants to serve the public equally, serve us equally?
Yeah.
Why has it got to be a first? Why is it always a first?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact, because I've just been pondering this for a while. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the black community was oppressed for so long. You know, they were enslaved. They were not allowed to vote until there was a correct amendment passed, you know. So there were all these rights that they were denied for a long time. And so it's like they're seeing now this opportunity, like, hey, we can get into these seats and, you know, we can, you know, have that accolade that we're looking for. We have those educations and those scholarships that we can get. But what I'm seeing is that as they are getting access to these prestigious and, you know, like just places and seats and all that stuff, is that they're almost becoming superior minded, just like they were upset for so long that the white man was being. And I don't think that I don't want to put them all in that category, because I know a lot of people in the black community that don't have this mindset. But I will say that the majority of what I'm seeing in Columbus is very much, it's just entitled. And I think that people in the black community need to be very, very careful that they're not becoming the very thing that they hated.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's absolutely true. And that's probably the most logical thing that I've ever heard, because people don't want to accept that fact. I was like, why would you want to become the hater of the hated and not try to do better? You know, I'm married to an Hispanic woman, and I will tell you, there are a lot of races in this world that were equally abused, so to speak. How about the Italians in New York?
Yeah.
They were looked at, you know, really bad over there. You know, there have been equally oppressed races throughout time.
But isn't that where they ended up kind of doing the same thing, and that's where they became like the mafia and things like that? Like
well, they did it basically out of survival more than anything. But let me give you a historical context, okay? Just because I'm a white guy, so to speak, okay? My family originated out of Canada. Now, people are going to say, well, Joey Coggo's from Canada. Why are you not supporting her? Well, there's a whole different reason for that, okay? But the bottom line is, historically, there's a port, and you can all go on the map and look up this thing. It says Port LaJoye, LaJoye. And there's a place up there, there's a military fort that was occupied by the French. the British came over here and basically hired Indian conscripts to attack this fort. A majority of my relatives were in there.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Right. And there were 3,000 French, I guess you could call them Canadian French now, but they were European French, were captured by the British and brought across the ocean back to England. And 1,500 of them died from scurvy and malnutrition. The British treated them badly, very badly. And they got there, and when they got there, I don't know which king it was, King Louis, whatever, 4th, 5th, 1st, I don't know. But the bottom line is he pardoned them. And they all went back on a ship and came back to Canada, back to the place where they had migrated from. And all of our relatives went from there to into New York State and down in through Michigan. That's how we separated over the years. Now you're talking early 15-ish hundreds, 16-ish hundreds, things like that nature. But when that battle went on in that fort, I believe it's Fort Harrison, I contacted the Canadian government, got the history and the background of that. And the bottom line is a large number of them escaped and went down to Louisiana in the swamps and hid there. And now you know why the Cajun population, the French Cajun population, is around that area. Now, they're not all my relatives, but a good majority of them were down there.
Wow. And
I know that the migration part of that, because we've followed the migration part of that. But they became in those, there were swamp people became those communities because the French didn't want to go down in there. And the Indians that occupied those swamps down there, they didn't like the other Indian populations, or anybody else coming down there. But the French settled in down there, and that's kind of, in a roundabout way, that's kind of the history of what happened. But there was a black lady that was, I was a task force commander, and basically, task force sergeant major when Katrina kicked off. And that's another thing that, you're not getting either by either candidate you're getting in this mayoral race, is that Homeland Security experience. I was the guy that I had a team of 150 Special Forces guys based out of 20th Special Forces Group. We were called to service. We went down to Katrina the day after the storm went through there. And we traveled all the way from Birmingham, Alabama down there by truck. It took us like 12 and a half hours. We had to cut our way through the roadway just to get down there. And the crazy part is we claimed eminent domain on a lot of things that we had down there, and we were able to get equipment and sources and all that stuff. And we hot-wired trucks because I have experience in that. Like, oh, did you steal trucks? No, I didn't steal trucks. We left our name and everything about the trucks that we had at the time but we had a shortage of vehicles that we had to deploy in and around the New Orleans area. And we were based on New Orleans Naval Air Station. That was our home base of operating base out of. And we were able to take the rubber boats or Zodiacs and the Cajun Navy, as they called them, down there. And they occupied, and we were going around, occupied those boats, and we went around rescuing people in and around New Orleans area. And my team were able to rescue over 5,500 people.
Wow.
In and around the wards down there. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of Jamaicans and a lot of different nationalities. They were living in second-story structures. And we were going around providing them food and water, trying to get them the hell out of there. And they didn't want to leave because we were still providing them food and water. Yeah. They wanted to stay, and we told them, you can't stay here. But a lot of us were also in those aircraft. We had Coast Guard aircraft, military, Army military, you name it, Air Force, you name it. We had all the aircraft there flying around the New Orleans area. And the teams that we had were rappelling down on these roofs with chainsaws and axes, cutting holes in roofs. Now, that was all in my direction. All of that was done on my direction because the sergeant major and the lieutenant colonel, the commander, battalion commander that was part of that operation, they never had Homeland Security experience. They didn't know what to do. They were called down there. I mean, they knew tactical things that they could do.
Yeah.
But what we did is we deployed what I thought was common sense initiatives to get people out of there. When my guys came to me and they told me, they said, Mark, or this sergeant, whatever, they said, we can't get them out of the apartments. They don't want to leave the second story structures. And like I said, a lot of times we would cut into those structures and find out, it'd be 5 or 6 people who are all dead from exposure from the heat. I mean, it's like in the middle of midsummer. And so the ones that we were able to rescue, we got out. We got them in boats and got them out there. The ones that stayed, they came to me one evening and I said, stop feeding them.
Yeah.
They gave them water. And I said, this is tough love, but this is the only way that we can encourage them to leave. And so we made sure they had water every day. We go around back to the same locations that we had our boats divided in, made sure they had water. But we basically stopped giving them MREs, which is our meals ready to eat. We stopped giving them food. After 2 days, they got in the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked. But that's why I'm saying you have to have a tactical mindset. You've got to have the mindset of thinking outside the box.
Yeah. So I think about that because you're talking about how you have the Homeland Security side of it. And if we think about contextually Columbus, the question would be like, well, what would that benefit Columbus? Like, because they haven't had any kind of natural disaster, so to speak. They haven't had any reason for Homeland Security. And I think it's important for people to know that Columbus is a sanctuary city, which means they, a lot of times they are okay with undocumented citizens, and there's a protective armor, I guess, that the leaders that the officials in Columbus have. And so my question to you would be, like, as you have that experience, how would you foresee that benefiting Columbus if, let's say, Joanne had that experience or Isaiah had that experience?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. When I was in the Columbus Police Department, because we were part of a Homeland Security initiative here. That's why I had the experience. Okay. A long time ago, public safety guys used to be trained in, and I got certificates for this, is we would be in charge of taking care of areas where people would have to congregate, like a gym or something like that. So we would learn how to, they taught us this. We would learn to pass out, memorandums, information, blankets, water, chow, what I call chow and food, and other things. We were trained in these things. You were a shelter manager. So we had that basic experience, every law enforcement, and I don't do that anymore. But where the experience comes in with me is when we went around, we figured out that we had not only areas of targets of opportunity for nefarious reasons, we also had areas that are Homeland Security issues. I'll give you one. How about that dam up there?
Oh, yeah.
How about if that dam, let's just say it's a natural failure. About 20 years ago here, about every 100 years, we have a flood here. And it's more often than that. But it rains for 7 days straight. The creek in my backyard was a raging river. It was going over the top of the roadway. That's coming from a draining reservoir up there that's supposed to catch rain in that area. The river walk was flooded. It was all the way up to the sidewalks at the top, not at the bottom, at the top. 7 days straight it rained. It never stopped, and everything was over flooding. So let's say that happens again, but in a more catastrophic nature. Or let's say that the dam fails and you got all of that water behind it. What do you think is going to go downrange? South Columbus, Oakland Park, totally gone. Because the spread of that water is so wide and so catastrophic. That's what I'm talking about, a Homeland Security issue.
I got you.
That's one of them. there's several, and I don't want to list them all, but there's several targets of opportunity that would be Homeland Security initiatives. But see, what we did, and myself and Travis Snorer, who was part of the sheriff's office, who's no longer with us, he got killed in Iraq on he was on a convoy, I think convoy escort. He was shot in the neck, but he was a former Ranger. But he and I worked together, and we did all these targets of opportunity. Total Systems. We went to Total Systems and see where the targets of opportunity. What did Total Systems do? The largest credit card processing company in the world.
Yeah.
Shut that down. What do you think happens to our economy?
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge. You know about the experience there.
Oh, yeah.
So we looked at terrorist actions, what could happen underground. I can tell you right now from the Riverwalk, there's a place that I can enter in. That's a shield from the riverside, go all the way up into almost into the center of the building. Yeah. And if somebody was to sneak in a large amount of explosives at night up in there and detonate that for some reason, or detonate it on a target of opportunity, that's an example of what I'm talking about when we talk about Homeland Security. We have one of the largest military bases in the world just right here, Fort Benning.
Yeah.
What do you think happens if let's just say a nuclear round hits there for some reason?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, we're a huge target here. Then you've got one of the largest aircraft producers of engines right up the road. Pratt.
Yep.
And they're now producing missiles.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know if they're in production now, but they built that extra facility to produce missiles for the Department of Defense. Now, I'm not quite sure what they are. There's another target of opportunity. So when you break it down, there's a lot of targets of opportunity. Not only to mention the fact that we talk about Oakland Park, but Phoenix City. That's our sister city. They would get flooded out down there.
Yeah.
If we had a catastrophic failure. If it was a terrorist incident, the dam, and let's say somebody went in and they blew all of the chutes in there or something, all that water's coming down. What do you think they're going to do? Throw a diver in the water? A couple of years ago, we had a diver that died over there trying to do maintenance on that. He got sucked in like a vacuum into that.
Yeah.
I know. I was out. I wasn't there. I went out there to see what was going on. But my point is, that's when you have a mayor. See, most of you people have never thought at that level of a natural disaster. A lot of people say, well, we never have it here. We are in a tornado alley if you don't realize that. If we had a tornado that came through we had one a couple of years ago that took out a large swath of Columbus. Let's say that you have 3 tornadoes or 4 on the ground that split off of one tornado.
And
they take
that
out.
is happening lately.
Well, it's happening. And it could work its way right across Columbus. You have a very big catastrophic failure. Power, people will be injured. Unfortunately, some people will be injured critically. You need a mayor that knows how to take care of Homeland Security. Now in a time of disaster. You don't have that. You're not going to have that with either candidate. Okay? So I think when you look around, like I said, let's stop the white and black thing. Let's people running around because you're eager to put these people in positions, but select the best candidate for that position. Come on. We're just asking for the right thing to do. I don't care who you are, but make sure they're qualified. Make sure they're not, there's no nepotism where they're hiring their family members or buddies and everything for these positions. I mean, it's just the wrong thing to do. But like I said, I'm finishing this part of this campaign now with no more mention. I'm not going to mention a damn thing about it. Depends on, and if you don't get what you want tomorrow, it's because of what you wanted. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say that you didn't make the right selections because I believe that wholeheartedly. But that's okay because I believe that our economy, this whole Columbus needs to fail for it to progress. I really do. I think we had to start out with a new juncture, a new city council, a new mayoralship, a new city manager, just new all the way around that we can build this community. This community means a lot to me. I live here. I have a paid house here. Yeah. I could have went back to Michigan so easily, but number one, I don't want to shovel snow. That's another thing. Okay. And I come from a very beautiful part of the country. But the bottom line is, I don't want to go back there because this is my home. This is where we settled. You're not going to run me out of Columbus. You're not going to run me out of politics. I'm just not going to run at this level anymore. I'm done with it. I'm done with it because you don't want progress. You want the same old same is what you want.
Yeah. So,
Fine.
so I'm going to kind of branch this out into a little bit of a different direction, but still hitting the same topic because like part of the reason why I got into the politics, the governance, the accountability is because this is just where I believe that God called me. And so like to be a conservative, most conservatives, not all of them, usually have a religious background as well. And so I was very much into ministry. And I was praying one day because I just saw some things going on in the church that really just burdened my heart for the people in Columbus because we're like part of the Bible Belt. We're supposed to have a lot of church representation, like God's people.
Looks like we got a lot of negative church representation here lately.
Well, so I just remember praying and, I just like in my prayers, the Lord was just kind of impressing upon me that he wanted to do this vision for the valley is what he gave to me. And this was like in 2014. So this was before I got into any of the politics, before I met Charlie, before I, got into the court system, like all of that. And I just remember it was so like 2014, this is when I was exposing a local pastor for, he just wasn't a good pastor. This is the same guy that was just arrested for impersonating an officer. I don't know if you remember that
Yeah, I
story.
remember you mentioned something about the case.
So, but anyway, so it was around the time that I got falsely arrested, was going through the court system, met Charlie, and the Lord again just told me, he said, okay, this isn't a vision for the valley anymore. I'm going to turn this into the Valley of Slaughter. And, when I had such high hopes to see such a great change for Columbus come, and then you hear something like that, it's very like detrimental. So I have mourned and burdened for this city for a long time, and so for the longest time I was just praying. I was, trying to stand in the gap, like, God, if this is really what you're saying, I really don't want to see this destruction. This is my hometown. I love these people. Some of them can be real jerks, but that's just because sometimes they don't really understand what's going on. And so, here it was that I met Sarah, through the whole elections stuff with her. You and I had already been kind of doing some things there. And this year, though, I really felt hopeful. I felt that people were waking up. I felt like people were going to give you a chance, even though, I kept hearing that this was still the Valley of Slaughter. And I think that that's interesting because I found that there was a family that has that same last name that at the time was very much into some things that I won't go into detail, but I thought that was interesting. So the reason that I'm bringing up that story is because if you're standing in the gap, you're praying for change, you're not seeing people repent, you're not seeing people change the direction for the people who are going to serve them, to be their voice, to use the power that the people have given to them, then what I am experiencing, and you can look to the Bible as a believer to see what God is going to do. If the people refuse to repent and the people choose to look to idols, which I think that they are looking to idols, like Isaiah Hughley has been made an idol to a lot of people, that God is going to come in and he is going to completely destroy. And that's what he did to Israel when the people didn't want to repent. They didn't want to go after God.
Yeah.
So I think right now what you're going to see, and I'm not saying this prophetically, but like this is just what I keep seeing in my dreams. This is what I keep hearing when I pray, is that Columbus is going to have to experience destruction. And I think that's just God's mercy, because he's showing these people, you have built something up on your own desires, on your own intentions. You're building things with your own hands, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to show you that you really aren't in control.
Yeah, that's a very prophetic vision on things that happen. Like I said, I really think that it has to fail. But, here's the crazy part. This is a military town. I mean, it is, I'm saying probably as high as 80%, if not more.
Yeah.
It's a military town. Why? I don't get it. Why you're not supporting your veterans? I'm a veteran, 41 years. Why wouldn't you have supported? As a matter of fact, one guy on here, he knows who he is. He's been a big proponent of Miss Kogel. And he and I, we lived in the same building in Korea and worked in the same unit. And this is a guy who actually gave me maximum donations 2 times in a row when I ran for sheriff. And now he's talking about me like a dog. And all I did was point out on this thing is like, I don't think she's ready for prime time. I don't want to get another Teresa Tomlinson here. And I pointed that out. And they go, well, you only had 1,800 votes anyway. I mean, this is stupid. I support veterans. I mean, we're blood brothers. And if you were bleeding on the side of a sidewalk, you were bleeding on a battlefield somewhere, whether I liked you or not, whether what color you are, we all bleed the same color. I would throw you over my shoulders and in what we call a fireman's carry. And I would do all I could to get you back to friendly forward lines is what I would do. But the anger, and then there's another guy on here who attends the meetings and is super negative. They don't, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, well, you were negative. I said, no, being negative and pointing out facts are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Mudslinging and pointing out facts are 2 different things. You might think they're the same, but they're not. Go to Webster's dictionary and look them up. I'll guarantee it doesn't say the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what my point is we need to support the people behind us. We are the ones that made the difference in this country. We're the ones who served the public. We served the world. We made freedom the way it is. Unconditionally. I didn't ask for any words. Like I'm telling you about the Homeland Security issue we had down in New Orleans. And, I received, my team and myself received some pretty hefty medals as a result of it. I didn't ask for that, but I felt a need to help people. I felt a need to rescue people. And I don't like to see people suffer. I don't like to see people hungry, poor, or to suffer. I just don't. My wife can verify that. We talk about this all the time. And that's some of the things that I don't see that same vision for the 2 finalists in this race. I don't see that vision. And especially when they're copying my ideas. I mean, come on, man. Okay, I feel very flattered. Okay, if you want to copy my ideas, put them into operation. Just don't make it a campaign initiative just for talking points. Well, yeah, give it credit and say, you know what, Miss LaJoy made a lot of sense, and this is the reason why I'm doing it. You won't see that. You won't see that.
Yeah, but what's crazy about that is so like whenever Steve Kelly was running and Christopher Brialt and Jaquidra, like these people still gave acknowledgement. Like they still said, like, well, I think about Steve, like, oh, well, Mark, like he should be this, and like he did really well at that. Yeah. And there was like camaraderie in the midst of the component or the opponentship.
How quickly things change.
Yeah, I get it, but why can't people just see that each person who's coming to the table has their own gifts and sets, and if you want to use those things because you're like, oh, that's a great idea, I should do that. Like if I get in there, like I'm gonna take Mark's idea, or like maybe I'll even talk with Mark and bring him in, and because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be about the people, right?
Yeah. Let me give you an instance. When I ran for sheriff, I think it was 2012, I was looking for money-saving ideas for in-town sheriff's cars that would be run around in town, not the ones that go out and pick up inmates at different locations where they've been arrested on our warrants and things, and we go up, but in-town cars, in-town admin cars. I proposed the idea of having propane adapted to those cars. because I did the study on it, on how much it costs, the cost savings versus fuel. What did John Darr do? Never give me any credit. Went ahead and put the propane fuel. Now, some people are going to argue that point. They go, no, I was on the steering committee. Oh, there we go, another steering committee. On the steering committee about, the propane. No, it was my idea. If you go back, you'll see it. It's there. But I've always adapted and overcome an issue. And I've always taken this and I set it up and I look at it and say, we can do better. We can do better than that, and that. We can do better. And I swear to God, in 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe 30, I can come up with a solution that fast. Because I've been trained to do this.
Right. You have to be quick on your toes.
Yeah, when you're in the military and you're sitting on the side of a hill and you had a mission, I talked about this in one of my, in my campaign, one of my commercials said, everything starts with a military mission. It does. And when you have that mission, you do this, this, and this. If it fails, what's your backup plan? Right. You're sitting on the side of the hill and you're getting shot at. And the first plan didn't work. Second plan didn't work. Maybe the third plan didn't work, or maybe the third plan is something other than what we need to do. And so that's why I'm saying every military mission starts with a plan. Mm-hmm. Every leadership role starts with a plan. And that's all I'm saying. So, again, no more is going to be said about this mayoral election. Whatever happens tomorrow, it happens. I don't want to hear all you naysayers coming out there like, well, if you would have supported Joanne, she would have won. If you would have supported Isaiah Hughley, he would have won. I don't even want to hear all that garbage.
Yeah.
Would you say the same things if it was me in the final? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But the bottom line is you're going to live, whatever decision you made with, you're going to live with it. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say anything more about this mayoral race. It's 2026. And as far as I can see, I can't even see it in the rearview mirror anymore. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is.
Well, I'm going to say this. So let's just say that chaos erupts in Columbus and the people see that the person that they have elected to represent them.
They doing their leadership job.
Yeah. So when what is it? STHTF, when the crap hits the fan, so to speak. Mark's going to be your guy. So
yeah.
But at that we're at almost an hour and a half. So why don't, since you talked about that you're not looking in the rear view anymore, I want you to talk about real quick about
looking in the front mirror, looking in the front windshield.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at, like I said, I'm looking at state level offices, because I truly believe, and look, the Muskogee County Republican Party, the state GOP knows what's going on down here. Okay, they know what's going on, and they're not happy. They're not happy with what's going on down here, leadership wise. They're not happy on the initiatives. They're not happy on a lot of different things. Just telling you that. So maybe you need to go back and start changing your rules about how you do things or what you're going to do. They claim we weren't supporting partisan candidates. So you might not officially have said it, but your actions showed me a lot. I was an Army intelligence guy. There's a lot of things you do that I know. I'm not stupid. Don't play me for a fool, okay? And I'm telling you what. Again, I'm not looking back at this. I could mention some examples, but I'm not going to do it. But the bottom line is, I'm looking at state level offices, and some of you got 2 years before there's a decision. Some of you got 4 years because you're going to get reelected to that position without any competition. That's fine. I can wait. And it doesn't matter how old I am because I'm in great shape. I cough a little bit. Yeah, there's things going on. That's what happens when you get a cold. But the bottom line is I'm in pretty good shape, and I'm going to continue to be in shape. My mind will be good and strong like it is. We'll continue to build this podcast program, which I think is very important. And we're going to move forward with what we got to do. As far as civic-minded concern, I'm very civic-minded. I want to help out things, especially veterans programs, which are very sensitive to me.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure because, I know this is kind of silly to say this, but a lot of time when I see wounded veterans that I've said this before, why couldn't that have been me instead of them? Why couldn't I have missed my leg or my arms? Because they still had young family members to take care of.
Yeah.
Now they've got to pull their dad or mom, pick them up with no legs and put them in a chair. That's important. And I think that I would put my place in their place to suffer just so they could be normal, and that's how I look at things is I feel that the suffering could be, taken on as a penance to me. But I think it's extremely important that people understand that.
And the thing is I definitely have sympathy for those people. But I also think about how, Mark, out of all the people that I have met, I have never met anyone who cares as passionately as they do about justice. And so I would think that there's a divine purpose for you. And in order for you to execute that divine justice,
Mm-hmm.
you need all of you. And that doesn't take away what those people's position was, what their service was, what their purpose was. Like, we don't know what their testimony is, or what they were fated to be able to do in this earth. But Mark, I thank you for your heart for those people, and I'm grateful for your heart of justice. I've never met anybody like you, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, this is the very end of it. We're not going to talk about this anymore. We're done with it. As far as I'm concerned, sorry about that. I'm typing a quick message. Somebody had sent me a message. So we're not going to talk about it no more. We're done with that part of it. I will tell you this, that we need good leadership in Columbus. And I hope that if it does fail, it fails completely to the point where we can start over again. I really think, I seriously think that, because there's so much special interest, there's so many fingers involved in everything that's going on in here. And again, I hate to see failure of a community, but maybe that's what's on. So in the last couple, we're going to, turn our focus in the next coming broadcast to the community itself, what's going on inside the community, what's going on at state level, what's going on federal level, what's just going on across the United States. We're going to invite guests on that are going to be military members from various different, backgrounds. I think it's interesting to learn their stories and tell their stories. I don't want it to be about the Mark LaJoy show all the time. I want it to be about them. It's always that way. Certain things happening in the news. I want to just quickly put out this, and don't think I'm crazy because of what I'm about to say, but I'm a very aviation-minded person. I mean, I have a private pilot's license.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I jumped out of airplanes. I have DJI drones.
Wow.
Yeah, got several of them. And Friday night or early Saturday morning, about 3:00 in the morning, I happened to drive by an unnamed airport. And I was looking over to my right, about 90 degrees. Going down the road, I seen this light, which is crazy. I seen this light, and it was about the size, maybe it was larger, but it was about the size of a 55-gallon drum. It was completely lit up. But what I could see with the naked eye was it looked like it was translucent. This thing, because that particular road, it's covered heavily by trees all the way down the side of the road. And a lot of times when you pass through there, because I seen it last night again. Not the same light, but this particular, I seen a truck pass through there. It had lights on, and you could tell it was going through the woods. It'd break open an area, and then it would keep going and going and going the way it was doing, right? Which was crazy. It was crazy. But I seen, and a lot of times there's people out there spotlighting too, deer.
Yeah.
So you'll see the reflection, you'll see it. And I seen that last night. But that night, the other morning, this thing was treetop level, went through some of the bigger trees, went through, stopped about halfway down this road, which is about a half mile long, fast, and then turned around and did a complete loop, a 180-degree loop, back the other direction.
Yeah.
And I said, did I see what I thought I seen? Okay. I don't know what I've seen. I'm not saying there's a little green man. There's no thing stopped in the middle and nobody got out of it. But this was weird because no aircraft in the world could do a 180-degree turn that fast. Can't do it.
Well, you know that Donald Trump has actually ordered the declass of
I know.
the UFO
That was
files.
what I was going. That's what I was going to talk about next on this thing.
I would love. I'm going to enjoy that episode because I have done a lot of research on that. You know, they just released that movie Disclosure Day.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to go see it, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, as a Christian, you really shouldn't go see that," but I look at it from this point of view is it's like intel because they tell you a lot in these movies. And so like if you want to be able to learn your enemy and beat your enemy, like figure a lot of those things out. But I'm excited because, you know, there are these things that have been around since I think like when I looked at those D-class files, there was like 1940s or like,
modern times. But look at what the Egyptians painted on the walls.
Yeah.
They had these things and you can't, they looked like aircraft.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying, look, I'm not saying, no, you know, somebody's going to get out here and just say, oh, what? No, you're talking about little green men. No, the bottom line is go to the Pentagon's website.
Yep.
And there's a drop-down menu about the UFO reports. And what really astonishes me, that if it's not important, then why did they send FBI investigators out on most of these people? You could pull down a lot of these, were some of these in later, early on, were typed messages. Mm-hmm. Some were handwritten messages to FBI agents in that region. Go talk to this person.
Yeah.
If it wasn't important, why the hell were they sending FBI agents out? The best of the best at the time were sending them out to investigate what was going on out here. That's the crazy part. And the stuff that's on, and there's videos that are in part of that, and no rhyme or reason why the hell these things are happening the way they're happening. That's the crazy part.
Well, I think that it's very prophetic because, you know, like you talked about these things being on, you know, the Egyptian walls, you know, like, again, coming from a biblical perspective, because all of your answers are in the Bible. Like, we're living in the times where the Bible talks about, hey, this is going to happen just like it happened in the days of Noah. And what was the biggest thing in the days of Noah? You know, you had all these Nephilim giants and, you know, had all these other things. And so when we're experiencing this, right, like we're seeing this, it's most of the people in the Christian community are already saying, hey, the veil's coming off. This is why people are having, you know, like they're seeing visions and they're seeing shadows, or they're seeing aliens, or these, you know, UFOs, or what UAPs, I guess, is another term that they use them for.
There's a different terminology now.
But I think that this is all, they've been here. You know, our government has been, they've been very much aware. And anybody who's ever seen Independence Day, if you've ever seen Contact, if you've ever seen Interstellar, if you've ever seen any of these like movies that talks about that, I mean, you could even go and look at some of the older movies. I can't remember the name of it now. My dad watches it a lot, but basically like they go into outer space and, you know, they end up picking up an alien, and the alien comes in and takes over all of humanity. And so, you know, I think that we're getting ready to experience something really exciting.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know, but, you know, Donald Trump, no matter what people think about him, he's definitely releasing some very interesting things so that we as a people are, again, we're informed.
I agree with you, and I think it's interesting. And I mean, he's even said this right after White House briefing. Said these files he's releasing are entertaining at most. But what I really noticed that the personal interviews of some people were investigated by FBI agents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are the men in black? You know, who are these guys or gals or whoever the hell they were? They showed up and they're doing this. But look, I have an open mind. You know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I work on fact. And so the bottom line is, I think it's interesting to see this, but what I seen the other night isn't logical. Aviation purpose, it's not logical. In a county area, in a rural county area.
Like it possibly in new technology.
I don't know what it was. At first I thought, well, it's a drone or something. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got a drone. There ain't nobody on that road. Nobody lives there. If it was a drone, what the hell is it doing so low on the roadway? And it was translucent, and it could have been bigger than a 55-gallon drum, but that's what it. And a lot of people will say, well, why didn't you take a picture of it? I'm going to tell you something. And a lot of the things that I've seen in some of these videos and interviews that they've done is it's almost like they're so mesmerized that if it's up that close, because I'm talking from where I seen it, probably 300 yards away, that they're so mesmerized. And I was the other day, I didn't even think about taking my phone out of the cradle, the holder, to go and shock value. But this thing made a 180-degree turn so fast that it would have been a blur. You would have never seen it. Yeah. And then it went back down where it first appeared, and then it went up and it was gone.
Yeah.
It disappeared that fast. So, you know, have an open mind about some of these things, because, look, we're not the only people in this universe. I'm a firm believer of, you know, Jesus Christ and his teachings and things. I'm a firm believer of God. But, you know, we all came from somewhere, somehow, and this is happening. This is happening in real time. It's here. And I think what you said, look, the government's got a lot of damn secrets, okay? I used to have a top-level security clearance. I was read into a lot of programs, nothing like this. But, you know, I'm not going to say what those are because I don't want to go to prison for 20 years.
Please don't.
Because I'm still obligated under you know, rules. But you would be surprised on the secrets that we got. And the Skunk Works thing, Area 51, the stealth technology we see from the F-17s, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's old now. It's old. What the hell else is out there? What have we reversed? What have we reversed technology on? What have we built?
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, how long was Epstein doing what he was doing and people knew about it? And that's, you know, now that's new information for us, you know, and I think about how they're starting to release stuff on NASA and, you know, like just all this different stuff. What was it? A while back, they were talking about how NASA had ended up coming out and saying that the aliens actually came from the water instead of the sky. Like, so, I mean, well, I would encourage people, and I was a big naysayer when it came to TikTok. Thanks to Sarah, she got me on there because you know, for the business side of things and promotion. But I will tell you, there's a lot of things on TikTok that you don't get to see on the more censored social media platforms.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of, especially with Disclosure Day coming out this weekend, there's been a lot of people that have been talking about the portals in the sky and CERN and all that stuff. This is interesting stuff. It's not conspiracy theory. It's like legitimate stuff that's been released with D-class docs. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Elon Musk now. I just invested in SpaceX the other day. I got quite a few shares, and that's probably going to go up 300,000% or 3,000% in a short amount of time, because I see the value of what he's trying to do. Number one, he's a guy that can put inexpensive rockets into space and reuse them again. That's smart. This is a guy that came from him and his brother came from South Africa, did their business in a garage, in a freaking garage, living out of the garage and sleeping in a cot. This guy, the other day on the IPO release on SpaceX, he made $3 trillion. $3 trillion. And he's already worth trillions of dollars to begin. $3 trillion in one day. Because this guy is putting out, he's going to put He's going to be the main catalyst for building a space station on the moon that's a skip jump from there to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going outside. We're slowly going outside this solar system. We're still in it, but we're slowly working our way to the outside solar system, and we don't know what's going on. You can't tell me with all the planets, and when you look up in space, that there's not somebody else out there. There's got to be. There's got to be some life form of some sort got to be out there. And I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what, I was shaking a little bit the other night when I'd seen what I'd seen. I said, because I read a lot of these reports, but I said, I've never seen any of this crap. I was like, yeah, whatever. What are you smoking? But then all of a sudden I see it and I can't explain it. And I'm not an aviation expert, but I know enough about aviation that really raised some questions.
Yeah.
And I was rubbing my eyes and I was like, nah, this can't happen. This didn't happen. And the more I thought about it, I was like, oh my God. And I realized why people don't take the pictures, because they're so mesmerized by what happened with this thing.
Yeah.
And every night now since then, I've been go by there and I'm looking at this place to see. Well, I'm constantly looking at the sky because like I said, I'm a big aviation fan, and I see, planes coming out of Atlanta. They're on that trajectory, or on that azimuth, as we call it, the direction, on the compass. But the bottom line is there's things going on out there and they're unexplained. So again, we're going to talk about some of these things. I'll probably go back and look at some of these UFO reports. I think it's interesting because they've got actual video of these things disappearing in the ocean.
Yes.
How the hell? Now, maybe it's a drone. Maybe it's China. Maybe it's Iran. I don't know. But I think we have to earn ourselves. We earn answers. We need to get some answers from this.
I think that's going to be an interesting conversation, and I hope you join us.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, we're probably running at almost, an hour and 40 minutes, I'm guessing?
It's an hour and 45 minutes, yeah.
All right, hour and 45 minutes. And we're going to wrap up this presentation today. I promise you in the next few months, we'll try to cut it down a little bit to, just under an hour. But it's difficult when we start talking about subjects like this to just put it on a hold, and do that. There's so much to discuss. There's so much going on. And tomorrow is a very important day. I'm not downplaying it. But after this, we're just not going to talk about it anymore. We're done, because there's many other things going on in the world, going on in our community, that I think we need to pay very close attention to. And they're worthy discussions that we should have. And enough of this garbage behind us. It's done. Whatever happens, if it fails, it fails. We start over again. If it doesn't fail, it doesn't fail, whatever. If the candidates are there, and I hope that they stay true to their campaign initiatives, because I got your campaign initiatives, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. And when you don't do what you're doing, I will call you out on it as a discussion point, and then we'll put it behind us. But I don't want you to think that. And I think you as citizens out there, if they promised you these things that they're going to do, and the reason why you voted them was for these reasons, then you should hold their feet accountable.
Yeah.
Hold their feet to the fire. Hold them accountable for what they said they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And if not, there's a repeal process. Recall.
Yep.
And it's very specific, and we can recall these candidates.
Small percentages compared to the registered voter.
Excellent. And we can get recalled election.
Yep.
We can get a recall election. So let's use these tools to our ability, to our advantage. I think it's important. But that's all I've got. Julie, if you have anything else you want to cover here before we go out?
No, I'm good.
All right. If you want to quickly lay us out in prayer like we always do.
Yeah. So, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for Dave Nahley. Thank you for Mark LaJoy. Thank you for all of the equipment, all of the time, and all of the people that go into this program, Lord. Thank you for Sarah. She hasn't been here in a while, Lord, but we do thank you for her. And, Lord, I just think about Columbus as a whole, as it has borne heavily upon our hearts, Lord. I thank you, Lord, that when it comes to things that are done, we always think about how we want things a certain way. But I think about how Jesus said, not my will, but thy will. So, Lord, let your will be done in Columbus. Lord, no matter what the people say, let your will prevail And as whoever is elected, Lord, may all of us accept that that is your will, that you use people where they are. You use situations the way that they are in order to carry out purposes. And Lord, we thank you that you are holy, even when we don't understand what you're doing. But I also know that there is a redemptive work that you have provision. So we thank you for that. Lord, we love you, and it's through your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Columbus, have a good rest of your Monday. My days are all kind of mixed up. So have a good rest of your day Monday, and hopefully the weekend coming up that it's uneventful, but it's spent with time and family members, and I think that's what's important. All right. Good night. Good afternoon. Goodbye. We're done.